So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the second session of FDP. Now we have a talk by Dr. Vikas Ranjan Meher, who is working as an associate professor in the Department of Pharmacology, AIIMS Bhubaneswar. He has completed his MBBS from MKCG Medical College and MD from VSS Medical College, Burla. He has 11 years of teaching experience and 35 publications to his credit. Currently, he is working as an associate professor at AIIMS Bhubaneswar. He will be delivering a talk on biosimilars in India, current status and future perspectives. Over to you, Dr. Bikash.
Thank you, Dr. Armugam. Is the screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Thank you once again. At the outset, I would like to convey my gratitude to the organizer and particularly Dr. Arugumam for providing me this platform as well as opportunity. And as we know, we are in the December of 2021. It's already 2 years. World has been bruised and battered by this COVID-19 pandemic. It has not even spared the best of the health facilities. Developed nation has not escaped from the clutch of it. And it has also conveyed many messages to us. And it also showed that we are awfully short of all those weapons or to fight the different diseases which might we encounter in the future. In that context, today's topic, biosimilar, this development program's topic, biosimilar, is a very interesting one. It's the buzzword amongst the pharmaceutical companies. Buzzword because among the media, because I was seeing many news articles about this in different print medias in last few days. And it is also buzzword among some clinicians, particularly clinicians dealing with cancers, clinicians dealing with autoimmune disorders, and so on and so forth. But so much is yet to unknown for about this biosimilar. So in this context, my topic will be what is the scene of biosimilar in our own country, how it is placed, and what is the way forward of biosimilar for our country. So coming to the biological products, as we know, are a diverse category of products which are generally large, complex molecule and produced through a complex technology method in a living system such as microorganism, plant cells or animal cells. And there are multiple examples of it. I have put some of them, like a therapeutic protein like filgrastim, different monoclonal antibodies are available like infliximab, adalimumab, etc. Then there are different vaccines also coming under the definition of this biological product. So it has a multiple products. So how this because we are exposed to the conventional drugs. Conventional drugs are there for so many years, whereas biological product is a relatively new concept, not that new, but relatively new concept in compared to conventional product or conventional drug. So how these two differ? But usually these biologics are known as small molecule because they are having low molecular weight in compared to the conventional drugs. They are the high molecular weight in compared to the conventional drugs. Small molecular traditional drugs are having a known structure, whereas the biologics are having a very complex structure. Whereas this manufacturing method, if you see for the small molecules or traditional drugs or chemical synthesis involving a very few critical steps, whereas biologics manufacturing method usually involve the living cells or organisms, and usually there are sequential many critical steps involved in this. If you see this small molecule are relatively stable, whereas these biologics are sensitive to different conditions. And adverse effect, if you see, particularly when we talk about the adverse effect in the context of immunogenicity or immune reactions, then small molecules are now, although there are immunogenicity involved or immune reaction involved with the small molecules, but not that common in compared with biologics. So why we are talking about biologics and biologics? Because biologics has revolutionized the treatment of many disease conditions, like different cancer conditions, like it could be a breast cell it could be a breast carcinoma, it could be a colorectal carcinoma, it could be a renal cell carcinoma, so on and so forth, or immunological disorder like rheumatoid arthritis, or inflammatory bowel disease, or multiple sclerosis, ankylosing spondylitis, psoriasis, etc. There are so many conditions, and how it has helped. It has arrest the pathogenesis in many conditions which was not possible with the traditional drugs. It alleviates the symptoms, it reduces the pain, and overall it also improves the quality of life. That's why biologics plays so much importance in various chronic conditions, particularly all these what I have told. So what is a reference product? Reference product is a single biological product which is already approved by FDA, against which there is a proposed biosimilar product which has to be compared. So reference product is that original compounds. And now comes to our topic, which is biosimilar. What is this biosimilar? Biosimilar is a biological product which is highly similar to an existing US FDA approved reference product, wherein some minor or notwithstanding minor differences in clinically active component, and for which there are no clinically meaningful differences between the biological product and the reference product in terms of safety, purity, and potency. It has a different name in different countries, like it is known as follow-on biologic in Japan, similar biologic in our country, or subsequent entry biologics in Canada. WHO used this similar biotherapeutic product for this biosimilar. So there are a different country, they are using different terminology. And this definition also little bit, there is a variation in different countries. So why this biologic, again I am repeating, why there is an increasing importance of this biologic. If you see this, then there is this tremendous increase in the volume of sales. If you compare between the early 2000 and 2019, it was 46 billion US dollar that time sales. Then now it has reached to almost 220 or 225 billions. Then it was initially 9 to 10% of all the pharmaceutical products, whereas now it consists of almost 20 to 21% of all these pharmaceutical products. So slowly, in compared to the these small molecules, its use is increasing day by day. Then everything is going on smoothly. Biologics are being used so widely, or biologics are being used for so many conditions. Then why this biosimilar? What was the need for the biosimilar? Because majority of the country in this world, and including our countries, are not that developed, nor are not that economically prosperous. Majority of the people, they cannot afford very high treatment cost for many chronic diseases, whether it is cancers or whether any other autoimmune disorder. And biologics are very costly. So that's why, because of this exorbitant cost, there was this lookout for any alternative. And there also, if we see, there are so many these biologics, their patent has recently been this expired or about to be expired. So there is this scope to develop the biosimilar. Then there is a rising prevalence of chronic diseases, particularly in developing countries and other countries. So the scope for the use will be slowly increasing, and majority of those people, again, already what I have repeated, told is, cannot afford this high treatment cost. But as a country, we cannot keep them away from the treatment. So for that biosimilar, we thought of biosimilar, or this biosimilar come into the play. Then it provides an alternative to the stakeholder. Stakeholder means to the patients or to the prescriber also. If there is an alternative to any biologics, then they are ready for that. Then for the government or the policy makers, as well as for the third party people, like whether it is a government, when it is being given through this public health service program or through the different insurance company, because if less costly preparation, less costly product or treatment option is available, then they will with same efficacy, then obviously they will go for that. Then why this biosimilar is cheap in compared to biologics? If you see its development, then you can know why it is relatively cheap in compared to the biologics, because this total treatment cost of this biosimilar is almost more than 1 billion, and it take a pretty long time. It has to be developed in a different stage, whereas this biosimilar can be developed in a short span, a bridge version, and it also involve less expenditure, like 100 to 200 million dollar. In India it is even less in compared to the western counterpart. That's why, because all these things, there is an increasing production or increasing development of biosimilar day by day. If you see the biosimilar opportunities, it is increasing because all those originator molecule or biologics, the patent are getting expired, and more of this pharmaceutical company or biopharmaceutical company will lose the patent right of their original product. Then many other company will come into play. They will develop the biosimilar, and it will have a good overall effect, and it will eventually help the patients. If you see the global landscape of this biosimilar, particularly if you see, Europe is the pioneer. Europe was the first in the world to formulate the policy framework for the approval of the biological product. And Omnitrope was the first company. If you compare between the US and UK and European region, then Europe, they first approved this Omnitrope, which is a growth hormone. In 2006, United States joined the bandwagon much later. They approved this filgrastim in 2015. Filgrastim SNDZ was approved very late in 2015. But since then, FDA has also joined the bus, and it has approved quite a number of biosimilar for treatment of various conditions, including cancers and other immunological disorders. And not only US, not only UK, other Asian countries like Korea or Japan and other countries, they have also developing different biosimilars for multiple conditions, which I have told, whether it is for the diabetes, whether it is for the ophthalmological conditions like age-related macular degeneration, whether it is for the Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, or whether it is for rheumatoid arthritis or like that, or even osteoporosis. But cancers, now it's the role of monoclonal antibody, particularly in the cancer. Now it has garnered much attention. If you see the history of biosimilar development in the Europe region, EMA, it has started with the somatropin biosimilar, then gradually it has given to the approval to the different products like teriparatide, they given in 2017. Which for this osteoporosis, then before that they also given this enoxaparin. Then 2013 was very significant because monoclonal antibodies was the first time that was approved there. So this is gradually, although I lack the recent data about this EMA. Then if you see the US FDA, I already told that first was the filgrastim SNDJ was first approved in way back in 2000, that means in 2015. Then subsequently almost 31 biosimilar have been approved by the US FDA, and the recent one is this ranibizumab, which is a vascular endothelial growth factor antagonist, usually helpful in case of that age-related macular degeneration. So that was approved in September 2021. So what about our country? As we know, everyone know, we are known as the pharmacy of the world. During this pandemic also, we supplied vaccine to many countries, many of the resource limited country, to the African nation or to the other friendly country. We supplied the vaccine. We are the among the few nations who could develop their own vaccine during this crucial time of pandemic. And as we know that we are the largest provider of the generic drug globally, because of the supply of the generic drug, because of the supply of the generic drug by India to the different nations, particularly to the African nation, we changed the landscape of this AIDS treatment or HIV treatment. Because after we supply the generic drug, there was a drastic reduction in the price of antiretroviral drugs, and it was accessible by many patients, poor patients. We supply over 50% global demand for the various vaccines, 40% of the generic demand of the country like US, and 25% of all medicine in the UK. Our pharmaceutical industry, if you see, then it ranked 14th globally in terms of the value and third in terms of the volumes that we produced. And our domestic market is also equally huge, because we are so vast nation, we have so many people. So our domestic market is estimated to 42 billion US dollar in 2021, and which is likely to be reached to 65 billion by 2024, and which will again further expand to almost 120 to 140 billion by 2030. So India, if we see the Indian biosimilar market, then if overall Indian biotechnology industry comprises of biopharmaceuticals, different biopharmaceutical, bioservices, bioagriculture, etc., and its value is a staggering 64 billion in 2019, and which is expected to touch 150 billion dollar by 2025. And our Indian biosimilar ecosystem is quite thriving in compared to even the other relatively developed country. And we approved the first biosimilar, which was the vaccine for the hepatitis, way back in 2000. Although that time we did not have this proper regulatory framework, but we that time only approved that. And now more than 100 plus companies are engaged in India in manufacturing and marketing biosimilars. And now few of them are also touching the other part of the world. They are going to the US, they are going to the European countries, they are forging alliances with other multinational companies, and they are reaching to the global market. If you see the growing roles of biosimilar and biologics in India, then here you can see from the 2014, I have taken it from the CDSU, but that latest data I don't have, or up to 2019 I have. And if you see, we are using quite a number of biologics and also biosimilar. Although biosimilar in 2019 and 2017 it was less number of biosimilar, could be it was due to the little bit stringent regulatory guideline. That's why this production has a little bit reduced. It could be the reason. And if you see the market size, which has been projected for 2020 and 2025, then if you see the market size for the biologics and biosimilar in India, then almost it will touch 14 billion US dollar. So there is quite a scope for Indian biopharmaceutical company, because of the humongous size of our country and because of the huge population, and most of these people are all because of the increased incidence of different chronic diseases also, where biologics and biosimilar have a very significant role. So if you see the Indian biopharmaceutical market, then if you see the molecule they are developing, all these are usually these things, either it is biosimilar to the growth hormones or to the glargine or erythropoietins or different monoclonal antibody, whether it is a bevacizumab, whether it is a trastuzumab, whether adalimumab, etc. Then it is also for the granulocyte colony stimulating factors for the blood disorders like this neutropenia. Then there is erythropoietin for anemia, as well as for the interferon. So these are being different biosimilars. So if you see the example of biosimilars, some of the example of biosimilar approved in India, then it covers what I have already told, like glargine, Glaritos, then filgrastim, Graphyl, then erythropoietin, apoietin alpha, apo4, or monoclonal antibodies like bevacizumab for colorectal cancer or cetuximab or adalimumab, either for the rheumatoid arthritis or inflammatory bowel disease, or like trastuzumab for this or to new breast carcinoma or septins. Then CNS disorder like multiple sclerosis, sclerosis interferon beta 1 alpha, reliveta. So there are so many. These are some of the examples I have taken. Then teriparatide in case of postmenopausal women, because those postmenopausal women are more susceptible to osteoporosis, and teriparatide they are saying is one of the better drug because it increases also the bone formation. So it will be helpful in postmenopausal women who are at risk of fracture. And what are the targeted indications? Already I told some of them. Autoimmune diseases, different types of autoimmune diseases, whether it is rheumatoid arthritis or whether it is any skin autoimmune disorder like psoriasis, or it is whether it is a psoriatic arthropathy, whether it is ankylosing spondylitis or inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. Diabetes mellitus. India is not now not in the diabetic capital of the world. So many people are suffering from the diabetes, mostly type 2 diabetes mellitus, as well as also type 1. So again, another targeted indication is diabetes mellitus. Then malignancy, different type of cancerous conditions, whether it is a colorectal carcinoma, whether it is a breast carcinoma, whether it is like lung cancer, so on and so forth. Then blood disorder, whether it is anemia, whether it is leukopenia, or leukopenia due to chemotherapy also, or due to any other immunosuppression diseases, or due to any immunosuppression drugs. So those conditions, this is again one more targeted indication for which biosimilar are developed. Then growth hormone disorders. Then also female infertility. That is also one more targeted indication for which different biosimilars are being developed. Who are the major player in Indian scenario or Indian scene? So many pharmaceutical companies have now joined the club. So prominent among them is Biocon, Reliance Life Sciences, Intas Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Lupin, Cipla, etc. Many are there in the list. I have narrated. I have taken this from this one, this study, sagaciasresearch.com, and here a few of them have been enlisted. Then why this is very important? Because if you see that Ogivri, that biosimilar of the trastuzumab, it was co-developed by Biocon Indian, which is an Indian company, and Mylan, and became the world first biosimilar Herceptin to be approved in it was approved in 2017, like that Fulphila, which is a pegfilgrastim, approved in 2018, and also Fulphila became the first biosimilar developed in India to be commercialized in the US in 2013. So that's what Indian pharmaceutical company is not only producing or developing their product for their domestic patient or domestic population, but also they are breaking the ceiling. They are reaching to the developed world where the regulatory criteria is very stringent, particularly US FDA. So always they look to us with skepticism, but slowly we are also reaching to their market. We are getting our companies are getting approval in their market. That means it proves that our this biosimilar companies, they are moving in a right directions. They are not only going to the US, they are also going to the European agency. Their product has also been approved in other Asian countries. So that means they are breaking the ceiling and they are moving in the right direction. I just checked these two clinical trial site. What's happening there? I wanted to know. I checked the CTRI and I checked also this clinicaltrial.gov. And interestingly, there also I saw that many trial has been registered, few have been completed. Like if you see CTRI, it is shown that 20 studies are there. Many of them have been completed. Few are in the offing. Patient recruitment in some of the study, patient recruitment have been started. Some have been registered but not yet recruited. And one more important thing is that many of these studies are multi-centric studies, and many of the academic institutions have also been roped in as a center, like AIIMS Bhubaneswar. In few of the study I saw that AIIMS Bhubaneswar is also part of this study. So that is again another good sign, is that there is an industry academic collaboration is going on, because um, uh, as we know, many of these INI Institute of National Importance are coming up, whether it is AIIMS, whether PGI or JIPMOR, NIPOR, and any other research institutions are coming. And because so many research institutions are coming, there is a greater scope for this academic and industry interface. Like that in I saw that in this, the CTR research, in the CTI, there are 33 studies, and in the clinicaltrial.gov some 20 studies are there. So that means so many trials are also going on of this different biosimilar. Then I tried for the SWOT analysis of this biosimilar market of India. SWOT analysis means usually it involves four things, whether it is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. So what are the strength, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunity it has, and what are the possible threats. The strength is that we have significant number of US FDA approving manufacturing plant. We have a booming clinical trials and clinical researches scenario or scene. We have this skilled manpower. We have very low cost infrastructure. We have a very huge population which are in need of this treatment, because many of these are suffering from these chronic diseases where biosimilar have a role. Then there is increased penetration of the health insurance in our country, particularly during this COVID pandemic. And in the because most of the time it is very difficult for a patient to bear the cost. So if there is a health insurance, it will have an increased likelihood that patient will go for the little costly treatment, because biosimilar again is not that cheap. What are the weaknesses? We have large number of poor populations. Majority of the population are impoverished. And because of the high treatment cost, many of them push to the below poverty line. Then majority of our health cost is out of pocket expenditure. If you consider any cancerous treatment, whether it is a breast carcinoma or whether it is colorectal or any lung carcinoma, it is a pretty expensive treatment, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, or surgery. So if you add everything, that what happens, it is very difficult. Some of the time, if you see the total treatment cost of any condition, that it might be much more than the annual income of many patients. So in that condition where majority of this cost is out of pocket expenditure, can we go for a relatively costly treatment? That is a big question. Though health insurance, there is a slight increase in the health insurance, but still health insurance is nascent stage in our country. Majority of people are not yet covered by the health insurance. Nowadays, many of the state government and central government, they have initiated in Odisha, they have started, central government also they have started, but in that, whether biosimilar cost is included or not, that we have to see. Then another thing is lack of awareness about the biosimilar. Lack of awareness among the prescriber about the biosimilar, because majority of the clinicians also, they don't have the still they don't have much idea between the biologics and biosimilar. And many of the patients are also not aware about the biosimilar. So when it is very difficult to convince those people to use a biologics or biosimilar in compared to a small molecule, because small molecule definitely is relatively cheap. So there, because there is lack of awareness prevails. Then patent extension is another major problem. Many companies, they are now trying in some way trying to extend their patent, trying to evergreen that evergreening. So now if patent will be intact, then obviously biosimilar cannot be developed. So these are some of the potential weaknesses. What are the opportunities? Opportunity, we have to strengthen the existing infrastructure because our biopharmaceutical sector is very robust. They are already producing small molecules. So if we can strengthen the existing infrastructure and so that they can also start developing the biosimilar, that is one opportunity. So more and more pharmaceutical company can start developing the biosimilar. Skilling the human capital. We have the workforces, we have so many institutions. If we can empower them with the knowledge, if we can empower them with the skill, if they will make aware about the different aspect of development of the biosimilar, then that will have a huge, that will create a huge opportunity. Then another is collaboration with the international player. Already I have given example, Mylan and Biocon, what it resulted. So collaboration with the international player, because they will know, they will bring the technology, they will bring the knowledge, they will bring the more opportunity, they will bring the money and finance also. And what Indian company can give? Indian company can give them the platform. Indian company can offer them the market, Indian market, which is very huge. So there will be scope for market expansion. Then we have to also harmonize our this regulatory framework with the international agency, whether it is US FDA, whether it is EMA, or whether it is WHO or other countries. Slowly in that direction we are moving. What are the threats? Negative perception of the international regulatory agency, particularly the biosimilar products which were approved prior to 2012, because there was no structure. There was not a structured framework available, and all those biosimilar was approved case by case basis. So always this other regulatory agency, they see us with some amount of skepticism. So that is there. The negative perception of the prescriber and the patients, whether we can convince a prescriber to prescribe this biosimilar rather than a small molecule, because there are some things, then whether this prescriber think that majority of the patients may not afford this. Patients, because they are, again, cost is very important. If it is a very expensive treatment, that majority of the people will not go for that. Then quality assurance issue is there. Then rapidly changing regulation. In our country, there is this these things to change the rule and regulation very often. If it is not consistent, then the other people, global companies or companies from the Western country, they will not come, because it will, they will not rely on our these rules and regulation. It's not that we are not doing. Government is doing a lot. Government has started some initiative. Government has revised the guideline 2012. It brought the guideline. Then subsequently it revised the guideline in 2016 to simplify the regulatory pathway and to enable the faster approval, and also to the this manufacturing process, assuring the safety, efficacy, and quality. They are also doing something for the skill development. They are also doing this infrastructure capacity building for the research in novel biologics and biosimilar. They have started this national biopharma mission with some corpus fund to initiate an industry and academia collaborative mission. So the industry and this academic, they can work together. They are promoting different startups in this field, in the field of biosimilars. They are giving some incentive to the startup company, those who are interested in biosimilar. These are some of the initiatives I have enlisted. There are many more given in that BIRAC paper. Then there is this collaboration with many foreign universities to bridge the knowledge gap and technology gap, and to promote early stage biotech-based discovery. Then there is also extended exemption on the service tax provided by BIRAC approved biotechnology incubator to the incubator company, which came into play from April 5, 2016. Then there was also some relaxation like mandatory requirement of export and import licenses for biological samples were removed from August 4, 2016. So government is taking some initiatives. And this is the biosimilar guideline that will be dealt probably in this program, faculty development program, either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. But this was the initial guideline brought in 2012. Before that, I already told that there was no guideline, although we gave the approval in 2000 for that hepatitis vaccine. But before 2012, what was it? That means case by case basis. Then there was some there was some limitations in this 2012 guideline. So again, it was revised in 2016 with the help of many expert and many international expert. According to this guideline, these are the competent authority in the approval process, whether RGGM secretariat working under the Department of Biotechnology, then Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee coming under the Ministry of Environment and Forest, then there is an institutional biosafety committee at the institutional level, then obviously there is this CDSU, Central Drug Standard Control Organization. So these are the competent authority. They are playing an active role in the this regulatory approval. So this is the regulatory pathway. There are different protocol mentioned in this guideline of 2016. I have taken only one because that I have not covered. So that is not part of my topic. So at least you should have some idea about this, and you can go through that guideline, 2016 guideline. And what is the way forward? There is a window of opportunity for our Indian pharmaceutical company to explore the possibility of expansion, because world is changing very rapidly. There is huge population which is in need or which is in required for a effective alternative treatment, and because of that the global market for the biosimilar is expected to grow rapidly. And because of that, many companies are anticipated to join this. And Indian biopharmaceutical to join this or to compete with them, Indian biopharmaceutical company need to upgrade their technology at the to the international standard and to improve the manpower and skill. And for that to happen, they also need help, active help from the government. They also need an enabling environment from the regulatory agency, so that Indian pharmaceutical company can meet the demand of not only the domestic audience but also for the global audience or for the people of other countries, like whether it is a developed country or whether it is a developing country. Because India, as a responsible democracy, not only have to do something for its own people, but also it has to do something for the people of the resource limited or resource constrained country. Thank you. That was my brief talk about the biosimilar current status and future perspective. What is the current scenario of the biosimilar? It's a very huge topic if you talk about the therapeutic aspect, if you talk about the regulatory aspects. And I was checking also different site because of this COVID-19 has disrupted everything. So I did not find any recent data, particularly in the Indian data or particularly in the Indian context, which I could not add. Up to the 2019 data are mostly available. So thank you very much. These are my references.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Bikash. That's an excellent overview of the current market potential of this biosimilars, and you have clearly explained about its market potential in various guidelines like USFDA or EMA, and compared with the market potential in India and how it's moving. So this has given participants a brief overview of the current status and how in future it will be going to market potential of these biosimilars in India. Any questions from participants? Okay, I don't think any questions from the audience. Thank you, Dr. Vikas, accepting our invitation and delivering a talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
So with this, we are coming to end of the first day program. We will meet again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Yeah, thank you all.